Stand up for justice. Sometimes it gets hard, but it is always difficult to get out of Egypt. But the Red Sea always stands before you with discouraging dimensions.
And of course,
Even after you cross the
that's what I
Red
call
Sea,
the war years.
you have to move
I
through a
went into
wilderness
community
with
relations in
prodigious
late
hilltops of
'67,
evil,
and in '68
gigantic
was where
mountains of opposition.
Dr. King was
I say
killed.
to you,
Robert
this
Kennedy was
afternoon, keep
killed. We
moving.
had
Let
quotation
nothing
marks of
slow you.
disturbance in the community.
Move on with
Did you ever have the
dignity and
opportunity
honor
to
and
meet Dr.
respect.
King?
I served on a board with Dr. King,
Mm-hmm.
Citizens Crusade Against Poverty.
Mm-hmm.
I was one of the lesser lights. I remember I'd worked with a program called ECHO,
Mm-hmm.
and that was back in the middle 60s. And the Citizens Crusade Against Poverty was established about in the middle 60s or early part of the 60s. And I received a letter that said that they had decided to expand the board to include more representatives of the poor.
Mm-hmm.
And I was representing the poor people.
And you did a very capable
Oh,
job.
I don't know. I was overwhelmed. I think the whole time I was there, I said very little. Dr. King was on the board. Dr. Spock, you've heard of Dr. Spock,
Yeah,
of course.
Benjamin Spock.
Walter Reuther,
Mm-hmm.
McGill from the Atlanta Constitution, Henry from New York. There were a lot of, I just looked at people in awe. I don't think I couldn't, what could I say that would have been halfway intelligent in the presence of all these people? Well, I think at the time that the board was meeting, it was more or less lending support
Mm-hmm.
to things that were going on during the middle 60s, the voting and the Dr. King and other civil rights programs and activities. I don't think it initiated as much as it supported.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when Dr. King was killed, we had some major disturbances. While we would consider major, in contrast to what happened in other cities, it was minor. Disturbances in the community, some destruction of property, some fires and so forth. We had a service which I headed up in the fairgrounds. There was over 7,000 people. We had a memorial service for Dr. King at the fairgrounds, and the community relations department and myself were sort of brought the people together to do that. And I was also represented the city of Columbus at Dr. King's funeral. It was quite a lovely experience. Of course, you know, Dr. King was was drawn by a cart that was drawn by mules, and it was quite an experience. And it was just a huge crowd of people there. Services, you know, they were inspiring. The service that I attended was outside.
Mm-hmm.
There were seats, yeah, but there's you were. It's like the March on Washington.
Mm-hmm.
You were a part of it. You were there, but I suppose everyone that the 250 or 300,000 people that were in Washington had an experience of being there.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as officialdom is concerned, the fact is that you were there.
Mm-hmm.
And it was noted that we were representing the city, but there were people from all over that were much more distinguished. And I think one of the things about that is a heck of a thing to say, but I stayed at one of the hotels downtown. It was, I don't know, about 8 or 10 stores or something at the hotel, and I pushed the elevator button to go downstairs for breakfast. And when the elevator opened, here was Harry Belafonte. Let's see who else was there. It was Sidney Poitier and 2 or 3 others whose name, at the time it was, I stood there, the elevator doors closed, they went down, because you know these people, celebrities.
Standing there in shock.
Yeah, and the elevator door closed and went on down. But I guess the passage of time has tended to cloud some. But there were 4 or 5. Except I know Harry Belafonte and Sidney. Oh yeah, and the other was Sammy Davis Jr. He was there, and there was a lady or two, a couple ladies. Their names slipped my memory. But when that door opened and I saw them, I was so awestruck. I just stood there and didn't get on the elevator.
You had your chance.
That's right, I had my chance. I think they were probably awestruck too at seeing me. They passed the chance also. I recall one of the things that I recall about that. I'd never been to Atlanta before, and when I hailed a cab to take me to the airport, I was talking everybody in Atlanta. It was just I've never experienced a feeling like that. It was just a brotherhood. There was good feeling. Everybody was warm, and I really don't know how to describe it. It's one big family. You know, everyone was so solicitous, and the cab driver. And I started to say, I told him I'd never been to Atlanta before, and he said, "What time's your plane leave?" Well, I left early because I thought it was going to be a job getting to the airport, and so I told him. And he says, "Well, I'll take you around the city a little." So he took me around and showed me the city. Mm-hmm. And he pulled up the house and said, "You have time to come and get a cup of coffee?" And I said, "Yes." And he took me in, and he said, "This is his house." And I'll tell you, I'd never seen anything like it in my life.
The cab driver's
Yeah,
house.
he was the owner of the cab company.
Oh.
I found out later on.
Mm-hmm.
But I was amazed because I'd never seen anything like that. A black person's home.
Now that is the final reason I think that Jesus says, love your enemies. It is this, that love has within it a redemptive power. And that is a power there that eventually transforms individuals. That's why Jesus says, love your enemies. Because if you hate your enemies, you have no way to redeem and to transform your enemies. But if you love your enemies, you will discover that at the very root of love is the power of redemption. You just keep loving people and keep loving them, even though they're mistreating you. Here's a person who is a neighbor, and this person is doing something wrong to you, and all of that. Just keep being friendly to that person. Keep loving them. Don't do anything to embarrass them. Just keep loving them, and they can't stand it too long. Oh, they react in many ways in the beginning. They react with bitterness because they're mad because you love them like that. They react with guilt feelings, and sometimes they'll hate you a little more at that transition period, but just keep loving. And by the power of your love, they will break down under the load. That's love, you see. It is redemptive. And this is why Jesus says love. There's something about love that builds up. And it's creative. There is something about hate that tears down and is destructive. Love your enemies.